How's it going, my evil residents? Today we'll be taking a look at all of the bosses in Resident Evil 5 and ranking them from worst to best. I'll mostly be ranking these off of personal enjoyment, fun factor, and some weight on story preference and memorability, though I'll get into game mechanics if I feel they're strongly relevant to the ranking. I'm not a game designer by any means, but if I feel something is well designed or poorly designed, I'll make sure to bring it up if it affects the ranking. That said, this is my subjective list and my personal opinion. I'd love to read yours down in the comments as well. I won't waste any more of your time. Let's get right into the video. NDesu lands in 13th place because, despite how much Capcom tries their hardest to give him a variety of moves to do, this fight is downright boring. Everything works as intended, so I can't dock it for being buggy, but this is just a slog of a boss fight that bookends a slog of a level. It sucks on a first playthrough, aside from the spectacle, it drags down the pacing on a repeat playthrough, and his health is way too high on professional, which just makes the fight drag even more. As much as I like the House of the Dead games, this just has none of the sauce those do to make this engaging, and it's a far cry from the Gigante battles Resident Evil 4 that this is clearly trying to build on. Not to mention, he just looks like the Zombie Stein from PvZ. I almost always skip this mission on a replay, and this boss being such a slog is a huge part of that.
I'm really excited for the new movie, I exclaimed with excitement. Little did I know.
This boss, straight up, just does not fucking work properly. On all modern versions of the game, it is bugged and a huge pain in the ass to defeat. How the boss is supposed to work is like a mix of the first Uroboros and the Excella boss fight later. You weaken it with the flamethrower, which I'd recommend the AI partner to do if you're solo. Then when it shows you its balls, you shoot them, repeat a couple times, boss beaten. However, you play this game above 30 frames per second, which is how it was built to be played, all flame weapons do way less to zero damage depending on how high your frames are. The damage scales down the higher your frame rate is. It's the opposite bug that the knife has in Resident Evil 2 Remake, basically. So if you play this game with an uncapped frame rate and you have a godlike PC, you basically cannot defeat this boss. On modern consoles, you're going to be topping out at 60 frames for this game. It still takes 2, usually 3 times longer to kill this boss than intended. I have no idea why this boss wasn't fixed in the ports, but given the boss literally doesn't fucking work properly, I've decided to rank it at the bottom. Almost. It's not quite last because I could just skip this one with the rocket launcher, whereas in NDesu, I just have to deal with it every time I replay this game.
She is such a bad bitch though!
While I love the spectacle and story significance of this boss, with Wesker doubling down on abandoning the last person who stood by his side, really showing the dynamic difference between Wesker and his quote-unquote partner, him using her as a tool, and Chris and Sheva working together as a proper team to take Wesker down, the boss itself is very bland as far as gameplay. The QTE section is neat, but still just a QTE section, and the actual boss with the chief token-worthy satellite laser is pretty boring. Excella's attacks are easy to dodge, and her little buddies she drops are basically no threat and just serve as free items. Most of your time in this boss is going to be spent running in circles and waiting for the laser to recharge. I think if Excella's attacks were a bit quicker and the laser took just a bit less time to lock on, it would improve quite a lot as far as pacing. As is, it does feel like a super easy time waster, which is a shame with how cool the boss design is and how cool this turn in the story is.
Dooby-dooby-doo, where are you? We got some work.
This boss does mix up the Wesker boss fight formula in this game by preventing you from hiding and instead forcing you to find his openings to damage him. But since you fought this guy twice already in the exact same format, it just serves as a fun way to experience the cool flashback, which replays the story cutscene at the end of the boss anyway, so it feels a little bit redundant. While I acknowledge that it is a neat and really fun boss fight, there is nothing new here gameplay wise, and it feels a little bit forced in, especially since right beforehand you lose your guns and then magically there's just some agents in the hallway with 2 guns that are exactly from the cutscene. As I said, I like it, but I'd be putting more unique bosses in a disserviceable spot putting Lost in Nightmares Wesker any higher.
It would be a feature, a creature feature, featuring
Uroboros loses all of its punch after your first playthrough. That's why it's down here and down. I just want to get that out of the way before people leave their comments about how cool this boss is. It's an awesome, very unique enemy for the series so far, as no other RE game before this had anything remotely similar, and it establishes how scary they really are by forcing you to use your environment to kill it, less so your weapons. You can use all the flame tanks or lure it into the massive furnace in the back. It's a great first boss for players to establish threat from this new virus and amps up the stakes, but on replays, this boss is is so goddamn easy to beat, but it just feels like a stopgap. On Pro, at least you have to bake him twice, but it still boils down to just some Dead by Daylight gameplay of looping him around till the furnace recharges. It cannot go lower, of course, because of that awesome first playthrough experience, and I could see someone saying it belongs higher. I totally respect that opinion, but I'm gonna leave it here at number 9 just because of how little precedence this boss has on repeat playthrough.
They fly now!
They fly now? They fly now!
Popokarimu, the first fight here, is tons of fun in co-op. It's a blast coordinating who distracts and who does damage, and then dumping all of your ammo into him when he crashes is very fun, and not as annoying as you'd expect. However, this boss can be pretty annoying with the AI partner. If you have your partner set to cover instead of attack, don't even try to use the trim mines that the boss arena gives you. Just give your AI partner a sniper and let their aimbot do the work of knocking it out of the air. Yeah, it's not as fun, but it'll save you from early life heart disease from the amount of boundless rage you will feel. You can just swap your partner into attack mode too, but I know players don't like doing that and would rather leave Sheva in cover than wonder why she wastes healing items and pick everything up and then go complain about it on game forum. That aside, this is a great boss held back by the solo partner AI, as it is somewhat normal for this game, unfortunately.
Okay, Spider-Man! Don't flip! Yeah!
I find myself forgetting this boss is in the game up until I get to the boss and go, oh, this boss. Because it's honestly a great time. Shooting the legs to knock him down as he shuffles around the platform is a fun challenge without being overly frustrating, and the little mosquitoes that spawn as the fight goes on apply a bit more pressure as you get used to the loop. I will admit though, on professional, the mosquitoes are a bit much. Nothing too unreasonable, but they can be a pain if you're not on top of them. Overall, a very fun boss with a cool design. There's many other great bosses in this game that knock this one down just a little bit. Popokarimu 2 is one that I feel like most people forget about when they're doing a replay of this game, because this boss is very randomly added back in. It seems like Popokarimu died the first time you fight it, but then it comes back for the second part and it's like, oh, you're back. Cool. But the boss fight's actually fun. I really like the condensed down arena. You can't rely as much on the trip mines, but also everything I said about Popokarimu in the first one is still true here. The reason this one is better is because you can just skip it. You can just haul your pussy ass up the stairs and just avoid the boss fight. It's incredible. It's hilarious that you can just be like, no, I'm not fighting you. And it has a built-in cutscene for this and everything. Like, the developers expected some people to do this, to just skip the boss. You get a treasure for defeating it, which is awesome, but you can just run away. And I really like that. It has its own cutscene and everything. I just think that's cool. More games need bosses like that you just run away from, but if you do defeat it, you get an award. I love that concept. It's one of my favorite like boss concepts for a game, so I can't put it in top 5 because I'm literally ranking it higher because you don't have to do the boss. I don't think that warrants top 5 necessarily, but it for sure gets it a spot in number 6. Irving is another boss that I find myself forgetting about before I replay the game, but once I get to it while replaying the game, it's honestly really fun. I love the dodges on his munching attacks. Trying to hit him while he's far away, you can do it with the machine guns, but it's honestly easier with the sniper. So I usually just use a sniper. You can use the machine guns, and then you get the rocket turrets in the back, which are a pain to hit it with. You're better off firing at the tentacles with those. His boss design is also really cool. It's hard to tell because he's in the water most of the time, but he becomes this like giant like whale kraken. It looks awesome. It's so cool. It's disgusting. It's one of my favorite transformations in the game, if not like in the whole series. And then when you see like the weird Irving tonsil, the like Irving uvula, that was his original body. It's so disgusting and nasty. And he's like, I've become something epic. And it's like, dude, you're a tonsil. You turned yourself into a tonsil. Shut up. Anyways, with how smarmy and annoying this guy is, he sounds like the I'm the Joker baby guy. It's satisfying to kill him. It's satisfying to beat him because he's annoying. And his boss fight is really fun. And it's so unique because you don't fight any other bosses on a boat, except you do. But not like a small boat. You know what I mean? In 4th place, we have Wesker's Volcano fight. This might get me cooked. This might land me in the volcano for saying this. But I think the Wesker fight in the volcano is not that engaging. I think it is one of the least engaging Wesker fights. If the Lost in Nightmares one wasn't just a rehash of a fight you already have twice, this one would be the least engaging. Most of this boss is spent just landing pot shots on him, running away from him, or doing an aggressive QTE to climb up a ledge or punch a boulder. And as iconic as those things are, none of them are that interesting. This boss fight is very much carried by its spectacle, its story significance, the cutscene directing, pacing of it. It's all excellent. This is a very well executed boss. I just don't think there's that much here. So I feel bad putting it above boss fights that have more going on because they're just built better. I'm not saying this boss is bad by any means. It's the least great boss in this game by like a mile, but it's still really good. Hopefully I worded that properly, and hopefully you guys get what I mean. If you want me to elaborate on this, feel free to ask in the comments. I will leave another comment responding to your comment. Probably not everyone's. If like 10 people ask me this, I'll just say I left a comment about this already. But yeah, as much as I love this fight, as cool as it is, it's got the least going on. It's got the least going on because Wesker loses all his mojo. He just walks at you with metal blades. That's it.
That was too close. You were almost a potato.
In third place, we have the Jill boss fight after you fight Wesker and Jill. I'm counting this as a separate boss fight because it has completely different mechanics, and it feels kind of like in Resident Evil 4 Remake when you fight you three in separate ways and then you separately fight the tail. Those feel like two different boss fights. Kind of a similar thing here. The main thing I like about this boss fight is how much teamwork it requires if you play it in co-op. Because you got to coordinate with someone pulling on the device, you got to coordinate with someone holding and restraining, you got to coordinate with someone restraining Jill, but depending on who Jill is attacking, you do need to change tactics and communicate, and it's really fun. And I just think it's really great and really helps you bond with who you're playing as a co-op partner and really helps establish the co-op relationship and partner relationship that Chris and Sheva have while Chris is trying to save his old partner. And I just think it's really cool. The story comes together a lot in this boss fight because this is why Chris is here. He wasn't here to stop Wesker first and foremost. He was here to save Jill, and then he needs to go stop Wesker. Yes, it was somewhat personal, but the main reason he was here was to save Jill. And this very much feels like the crescendo moment of the story, at least for me emotionally, because after this it's just Grr, Wesker, Grr, Chris, and then they fight. But you can really feel in this boss fight, especially with how good the music is, just how long it had been since Chris had seen Jill and how much he really missed her and how much he really wants her to get out of this. He feels horrible for her. You can really feel it, especially if you're playing as Chris, you can just tell Jill to snap out of it. There's just a talk to Jill button in this boss fight, and some of the lines he says, just the line delivery, Roger Craig Smith, you're a treasure, dude. Please come back to playing Chris. It breaks my heart, honestly, sometimes. It's a little cheesy, obviously. It's Resident Evil. When is it not cheesy? But it's so good. It's so good. I love cheese. I love cheese. I know I barely talked much about the gameplay of this boss fight, but its spot in the story is just so good that would land it at number 3 on its own. And then the gameplay with partner AI, it's okay. It's really easy with the partner AI, but with an actual co-op partner, this is one of the best boss fights in the game just because of how quickly you have to work together and you really have to coordinate with them to save Jill. Otherwise, you could just kill her. You can easily kill Jill in this. If your partner shoots on the wrong spot or you don't like restrain her properly, she can just die. And it's really sad. It's like, no. In second place, we have the Wesker Hangar boss fight. This boss fight does not get first place, as cool as it is, and it's because I know I said I love how cheesy Resident Evil is. I'm 100% aware of that, but the fact that Wesker only loses this boss fight because he doesn't take his sunglasses off is so goddamn funny. It's so funny. I love it. Like, it's stupid. It's one of the stupidest things in the whole game. Chris punches a boulder into a volcano in this game, and I think that's the stupidest thing in the whole game. It makes no sense because Wesker goes into like, okay, I'm actually gonna kill you now mode, and leaves his sunglasses on to fight them in the hangar where they're turning off the lights. And if you knock his sunglasses off in the boss fight, he takes another pair out of his jacket and he puts them on. And it's like, dude, Wesker is smart enough to plan this whole operation, but the minute it requires him to take his sunglasses off, he just becomes the most incompetent fuck of all time. And I can't get over it. I'll talk more about the Wesker gameplay in the first entry, but I just wanted to explain why this one went in number 2, because these two fights are almost exactly the same, and it's just, I don't understand, man. Like, it's cool that you have to work with your partner to reload the rocket launcher and stun him and then just inject him. You can do it really quickly, really easily. It's really cool if you speedrun it, but then on a first playthrough, it's like, oh god, what do we do? Oh, turn off the lights, LMAO, he has sunglasses. In first place, you all saw it coming. It's the Wesker and Jill boss fight. He's got 7 minutes to play. It's a cage match. It's WrestleMania time. You're duking it out. No one here. Well, Chris is probably trying to kill Wesker, but I think that's the only instance here of someone actually wanting to kill someone else. What I like about this boss is that you get a very different experience depending on which partner you're playing as, and you can just have Sheva deal with Wesker. You can have Chris deal with Jill. You don't have to pair it up as it seems like it pairs, but the characters aggro to different partners. Jill almost always aggroes to Sheva unless Chris is nearby. Wesker always aggroes to Chris unless Jill is nearby. It's really cool and it's really interesting just how the AIs work for this. And then you got to kind of use the corners to sneak up on Wesker, whereas with Jill, you can fight her a bit more one-on-one, but you can't kill her. It's very much a you're keeping her busy until they leave type of thing, which doesn't sound engaging, but I promise you it is. It's really fun. If you're playing this as Sheva, it is not boring, which I think is really good. You're basically just getting the Jill boss fight, but Sheva's experiencing it, whereas Chris experiences the Wesker boss fight. And I really like that neither experience is exclusive, because both characters do the Jill boss fight, both characters do the Wesker boss fight in the hangar and in Lots of Nightmares. And I really think it's just well designed and it's really engaging, because yeah, it's just like a time waster boss, but it's just fun. Yeah, it's like cheesy and corny that Wesker's like, I'm just gonna play around with my arch nemesis, I'm not gonna kill him, because he's such a stupidly incompetent, arrogant piece of shit that it works. It works really well for his character how much of an arrogant piece of shit he is, that he would be like, oh, I don't have to kill the only person who is an actual threat to my operation because I don't think he's a threat to my operation. I wear sunglasses at night, by the way. I guess the main thing I like is that it puts the partner mechanics on the back foot a little bit, because you have to fight each one by yourself. If you try to team up on one of them, the other one is just going to kick your ass while you're fighting the other person. So like if both people team up on Wesker, Jill's going to kick your ass and just shoot you in the back. If you team up on Jill, well, one, you're probably just going to accidentally kill Jill, but Wesker's going to kick your ass. And then you can do the combo moves to do big damage to him, and you can end the boss early. You don't have to wait out the whole timer. I think that's incredible. That is such fun game design for, it helps if you're like speedrunning it, you don't have to just wait the whole time and run in a circle. But it says something about Wesker's character, I think, even if the game doesn't directly acknowledge it, that if he doesn't win, he gets bored and he just leaves. And I think that adds a lot to Wesker's character just as a villain, and it's really cool. And this boss fight just really works on a gameplay and story level despite not involving the partner mechanic at all. And I just think that's cool. It's a fun boss. It's great. It's one of the most iconic in the whole series. I'm not even kidding. Like, this is one of the first boss fights I think of when I think of Resident Evil, just because how many plot threads are coming together here. You got Resident Evil 1 plot threads, Resident Evil 3 plot threads, Resident Evil Code Veronica plot threads. You even got, like, semi-loosely some Resident Evil 4 plot threads coming together right here. And it's just awesome. I love it. It's the best boss fight in the game. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like below and hit the subscribe button to help me along to my goal of 10,000 subscribers. Also got channel memberships, starting at just $1 if you'd like to support me more directly so I can put more time into making all these videos. There is a link to the Discord in the description as well if you'd like to get to know the rest of the community. I do also have Twitter and Blue Sky, both of which have links in the description. Special shout out to all my members on screen now, and a very special shout out to my malevolent resident, Belladonna. Thank you very much for watching, and stay evil, my residents.